The massive alien ship moved through space like a floating city. Its hull stretched for miles, covered in strange lights that pulsed with an eerie blue glow. Admiral Kexithara stood on the bridge of the Dominion's edge, his 6 arms folded behind his back as he watched the view screen. The small yellow star ahead looked ordinary, but it held something the Galactic Trade Federation wanted badly: Earth. For 200 years, the Federation had ruled the outer rim of the galaxy. They had conquered dozens of worlds and enslaved countless species. Their technology was advanced beyond imagination, their fleets numbered in the thousands. No one had ever successfully fought back against them. No one had ever tried. "Admiral," came a voice from behind him. Commander Veltar approached with quick steps, his 4 eyes blinking nervously. "Our scouts have finished their survey of the human system. The reports are ready." Kexithara turned his massive head. His species, the Zenthari, were known throughout the galaxy as fierce warriors. They stood 8 feet tall and had skin like gray stone. Their teeth were sharp as knives, and their claws could tear through metal, but it was their minds that made them truly dangerous. They were brilliant tacticians who had never lost a war. "Show me," Kexithara said in his deep voice. The main screen changed to show a detailed map of the solar system. Planets appeared as small dots connected by dotted lines showing their orbits. Earth appeared as a blue-green marble in the 3rd position from the sun. "The humans have approximately 8 billion individuals living on their home world," Veltar began. "They have small colonies on their moon and on the 4th planet, which they call Mars. Their technology appears to be primitive. We detected no weapons capable of threatening our ships." Kexithara studied the display with interest. "What about their military forces?" "Laughable," Veltar replied, with what passed for a smile among his species. "They have small ships that barely reach beyond their own system. Their largest vessels are less than 1,000 meters long. Our intelligence suggests they have never fought a space battle against another species. Defenses? A few orbital platforms around their home world. Some missile batteries on their moon. Nothing that could stop even one of our frigates, let alone a full battle fleet." Kexithara nodded slowly. This would be easier than he had expected. The Federation needed new worlds to supply their growing empire. Earth had abundant resources and a large population that could be put to work in the mines and factories. The humans would surrender quickly once they saw the size of the force arrayed against them. Meanwhile, millions of miles away, Commander Jake Morrison sat in his small office deep inside Cheyenne Mountain. The walls around him were made of solid rock, carved out decades ago during humanity's early fears of nuclear war. Now the facility served as the headquarters for Earth's Defense Force, though most people thought it was just a museum. Jake was 35 years old with brown hair and tired eyes. He had been watching the stars for threats for over 10 years. Most of his colleagues thought he was paranoid. The politicians who controlled Earth's government often joked about his alien invasion theories at their dinner parties. But Jake knew something was coming. The deep space monitoring stations had been picking up strange signals for months, energy readings that didn't match any known natural phenomena, gravitational distortions that suggested massive objects moving through space far beyond the outer planets. "Sir?" Lieutenant Amy Collins knocked on his open door. She was young, maybe 25, with blonde hair pulled back in a tight ponytail. Amy worked in the communications department, monitoring signals from the various human outposts scattered throughout the solar system. "What is it, Collins?" Jake asked without looking up from his reports. "We're getting some unusual readings from the Deep Space Array. Large objects moving in formation about 2 light days out from Pluto." Jake's head snapped up. "How large?" "The computer estimates at least 300 contacts. Some of them are enormous, bigger than anything we've ever built." Jake stood up, quickly, his chair rolling back against the wall. "Are you certain?" "I've run the analysis 3 times. The signatures are definitely artificial, and so they're moving toward us." Jake felt a cold knot form in his stomach. After years of preparing for this moment, it was finally happening. He grabbed his jacket from the back of his chair and headed for the door. "Collins, I want you to send a priority message to all stations. Tell them to go to alert status yellow immediately." "Yes, sir." Should I contact the Pentagon? Jake paused. The last time he had tried to warn the government about potential threats, they had threatened to remove him from his position. The Secretary of Defense had called him an alarmist who watches too many science fiction movies. Not yet, he said finally. Let's get more information first. Amy nodded and hurried back to her station. Jake walked down the long corridor toward the command center, his footsteps echoing off the rock walls. The facility was mostly empty. Budget cuts had reduced the staff to less than 50 people. Most of the military leadership believed that humanity's recent peace treaties with the few alien species they had encountered guaranteed their safety. They were wrong. Far beneath the surface of the moon, in a facility that didn't appear on any official records, Lieutenant Amy Collins worked frantically at her station. Not the Amy Collins who worked communications at Cheyenne Mountain, but another woman who shared the same name and happened to work in Earth's most secret project. Amy Collins was older, maybe 40, with graying hair and calloused hands. She wore the uniform of the Earth Defense Force, but her rank insignia were different from anything used by the regular military. Around her, dozens of technicians worked at control panels that hummed with energy. The air smelled of ozone and hot metal. How much longer? She called out to one of her subordinates. 12 hours for the first unit, came the reply. 18 for the second. Amy nodded and turned back to her display. On the screen in front of her, she could see the skeletal framework of something enormous. It stretched for almost 2 kilometers from end to end, its hull plates gleaming under the artificial lights of the construction bay. This was humanity's greatest secret, a project that had been under development for 50 years. The Dreadnoughts. While the galaxy believed Earth was defenseless, human engineers had been working in hidden facilities throughout the solar system. They had reverse-engineered technology from crashed alien vessels. They had developed weapons that could crack planets and armor that could withstand the heat of stars. They had built ships that could move faster than light and strike with the force of supernovas. And now, finally, they were almost ready. President. Helen Burke sat in the Oval Office reading the latest intelligence reports. She was 58 years old with silver hair and steel-gray eyes. She had been elected on a platform of peace and international cooperation. Most of the world believed she was a gentle grandmother who preferred diplomacy to conflict. They had no idea what she was truly capable of. Madam President, her chief of staff entered the room. We have a situation. Helen looked up from her papers. The fleet? They've crossed the heliopause. Admiral Morrison estimates they'll be in weapons range of Earth in 72 hours. Helen nodded calmly and reached for the red phone on her desk. After 50 years of preparation, the moment had finally arrived. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity was not the weak, primitive species they believed us to be. The illusion of peace was about to end. 3 days had passed since the alien fleet entered Earth's solar system. Admiral Kexathera paced back and forth on the bridge of his flagship, his heavy footsteps making the metal deck plates ring with each step. His patience was running thin. The humans should have surrendered by now. Every other species had begged for mercy within hours of seeing the Federation fleet. Still no response from the human government? He asked Commander Veltar. None, Admiral. We have broadcast our surrender demands on all frequencies. Their planet remains silent. Kexathera's forearms flexed with anger. His species did not like to be ignored. The Xanthari had built their reputation on swift, decisive victories. Every moment of delay made them look weak to the other species in the fleet. Perhaps they do not understand the gravity of their situation, he said slowly. Prepare a demonstration. Veltar's eyes widened. Admiral, target the human colonies on the 4th planet. Destroy 2 of their mining facilities. Make sure the strikes are visible from their home world. They need to see what happens when they refuse to surrender. At once, Admiral, the order went out across the fleet. 6 heavy cruisers broke formation and moved toward Mars. Their weapon systems powered up with a low humming sound that could be felt through the hulls of nearby ships. The cruisers were massive vessels, each one capable of destroying an entire city with a single shot. On Mars, the mining colony of New Phoenix was going about its daily routine. 3,000 people lived and worked in the domed settlement, extracting valuable metals from the red planet's crust. They had received the evacuation order from Earth 2 days ago, but there wasn't enough time to get everyone off the planet. Sarah Martinez was working in the control room when the sensors detected the approaching alien ships. She was 28 years old, with dark hair and worried brown eyes. As the colony's communications officer, it was her job to maintain contact with Earth during the crisis. "Colony Commander," she called to her superior. "We have incoming ships, 6 large vessels on direct approach." Commander Bill Rogers hurried to her station. He was a former military officer, 50 years old, with gray hair and steady hands. He had fought in the resource wars 20 years ago and knew what it looked like when someone was about to die. "How long do we have?" he asked. Sarah checked her instruments. "Maybe 10 minutes. They're not slowing down." Bill grabbed the intercom microphone. "All personnel, this is the commander. Evacuation Protocol 7 is now in effect. Get to the emergency shelters immediately. This is not a drill." But they both knew the shelters wouldn't help. The alien weapons were designed to destroy entire settlements. There was nowhere to run. The attack lasted less than 30 seconds. Beams of pure energy struck the colony domes and turned them into vapor. The ground itself melted and flowed like water. When it was over, New Phoenix was gone. All that remained was a glass crater that glowed with residual heat. The second colony, Red Rock Station, suffered the same fate. 2 more thousand lives ended in bright flashes of light that could be seen from orbit. On Earth, Jake Morrison watched the destruction through the deep space telescopes. His hands clenched into fists as he saw the energy signatures fade from his screen. Good people had just died. Friends and colleagues he had worked with for years were gone. "Sir," Lieutenant Collins said quietly, "Washington is on the line." Jake picked up the phone. "Morrison here." "Commander, this is General Patricia Lopez. I'm calling from the Pentagon. We just watched them destroy our Mars colonies." "Yes, ma'am. I saw it too. The President wants to know your assessment of the situation." Jake took a deep breath. For years he had been preparing for this conversation. For years he had been dismissed as paranoid. Now the politicians finally wanted to listen. "General, we are facing a fleet of over 300 alien warships. Their technology is far superior to anything we have in our public military. They can destroy our cities from space, and there's nothing our conventional forces can do to stop them. What do you recommend?" "We activate the protocols." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. General Lopez had been briefed on the secret programs, but she had never expected them to be needed. "Are you certain?" "Ma'am, if we don't act now, Earth will be next." "Understood. Stand by for presidential authorization." The line went dead. Jake set down the phone and turned to his staff. "Collins, send the activation codes to all deep space facilities. Authorization level black." Amy Collins' fingers flew over her keyboard. The codes she was sending had been created 50 years ago but never used. They would wake up systems that had been sleeping in the dark places of the solar system. They would call forth humanity's true defenders. Far from Earth, in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, something stirred in the darkness. The asteroid designated as 2157 Alpha looked like any other chunk of rock floating through space. But inside its hollow center, lights began to flicker on. Computers that had been dormant for decades came online. Massive engines that had never been tested began their startup sequences. Captain Ryan Walsh was sleeping in his quarters when the alarms woke him up. He rolled out of his bunk and grabbed his uniform, dressing quickly in the red light of the emergency signals. Ryan was 32 years old with black hair and blue eyes. He had been stationed on this hidden base for 3 years, waiting for orders that he hoped would never come. "Captain to the bridge," came the announcement over the intercom. "All hands to battle stations." Ryan ran through the corridors of his ship, passing crew members who were doing the same thing. The UES Vengeance had been built in secret, constructed piece by piece inside the hollowed-out asteroid. She was nearly 2 kilometers long and armed with weapons that could crack moons. Her hull was made from materials that didn't exist in any public database. Her engines could push her faster than light itself. She was a dreadnought, and she was about to go to war. "Status report," Ryan called out as he entered the bridge. "All systems online, Captain," replied his first officer, Lieutenant Commander Lisa Parker. She was a small woman with red hair and sharp green eyes. "We've received activation codes from Earth Command. Operation Hammer Fall is authorized." Ryan nodded and settled into his command chair. This was the moment they had trained for. Around the solar system, 11 other dreadnoughts were receiving the same orders. Ships that the galaxy didn't know existed were preparing to emerge from their hiding places. "Tactical. What's our target?" "Sir, we have the alien fleet positioned near Earth. 300+ contacts, including their flagship." "Weapon status?" "All systems armed and ready. Kinetic penetrators loaded. Energy banks at full charge." Ryan looked at the main screen, which showed the alien fleet arranged in what they thought was an invincible formation. They had no idea what was coming for them. "All stations, this is the captain. For 50 years humanity has prepared for this day. We've built ships in secret. We've developed weapons in shadow. We've trained in silence. Today the galaxy learns that Earth is not defenseless. Today they learn what happens when you threaten our home." He turned to his weapons officer. "Lieutenant Davis, you may fire when ready." "Aye, sir. Firing kinetic penetrators." The Vengeance shuddered as her main guns fired. Projectiles the size of telephone poles shot from her hull at nearly the speed of light. They were made from the densest materials known to science and carried enough kinetic energy to shatter a moon. The alien fleet never saw them coming. 3 Xanthari heavy cruisers simply disappeared. One moment they were there, the next they were expanding clouds of superheated gas. Their shields, designed to stop energy weapons, were useless against solid projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. On the bridge of the Dominion's edge, alarms began screaming. Admiral Kexathera stared at his tactical display in shock. "What just happened?" he roared. "Sir, we've lost 3 ships. Energy readings suggest kinetic weapons of unknown design." "From where?" "Unknown, Admiral. We can't locate the source of the attack." Kexathera felt something he had not experienced in decades. Fear. The primitive humans had just destroyed 3 of his most powerful ships, and he had no idea how they had done it. The war had begun. Admiral Kexathera's massive hands gripped the arms of his command chair as his fleet tried to regroup. 3 of his heavy cruisers were gone, destroyed by weapons he didn't understand. The humans had struck from nowhere and disappeared again, like ghosts. "Scan the area," he ordered. "Find where those shots came from." Commander Veltar worked frantically at his station. "Sir, we're detecting massive energy buildups at multiple points around the system. Whatever hit us, there are more of them." "How many more?" "At least 12 large contacts, Admiral. They're big. Really big." Before Kexathera could respond, space around his fleet began to shimmer. The darkness between the stars seemed to bend and twist. Then, like predators stepping out of shadows, the human dreadnoughts revealed themselves. Captain Ryan Walsh watched from the bridge of the UES Vengeance as his ship's stealth systems powered down. Around him, 11 other massive vessels were doing the same thing. The alien fleet was caught in the middle of a formation that had been planned for decades. "All ships, this is Vengeance Actual," Ryan spoke into his communications array. "Execute formation Delta 7, maximum spread, overlapping fields of fire." The dreadnoughts moved like a pack of wolves. Each ship was nearly 2 kilometers long and bristled with weapons that had never been seen by alien eyes. They had been built in secret facilities scattered throughout the solar system, constructed with technology that Earth had developed over 50 years of preparation. "Captain," Lieutenant Commander Lisa Parker called from her station. "Enemy fleet is trying to form defensive positions." "Too late for that," Ryan replied. "All ships, weapons free. Target the largest vessels first." The UES Retribution, commanded by Captain Kevin Stone, was the first to engage the enemy at close range. Kevin was a former Marine, 40 years old with scars on his face from the Titan Rebellion 15 years ago. His ship specialized in close combat tactics that no alien species had ever encountered. "Launch assault pods," Kevin ordered. Target, the enemy flagship. From the Retribution's hull, dozens of small craft shot toward the alien vessels. These weren't missiles or drones. They were manned assault pods carrying human soldiers in powered armor. The aliens had never seen boarding tactics like this. Major Susan Clark led the first boarding party through space toward the Dominion's edge. She was 35 years old, with short blonde hair and muscles built from years of combat training. Her armor was a marvel of human engineering, powered by a small fusion reactor and equipped with weapons that could cut through alien hull material like paper. 30 seconds to impact, she told her squad through the radio. Remember, we want prisoners if possible. Intelligence needs to know what we're dealing with. The assault pod struck the alien flagship's hull and immediately began cutting through the metal plates. Susan and her 12 soldiers poured through the breach into a corridor filled with surprised alien crew members. The Xanthari were big and scary-looking, but they had never fought humans in close combat. Their weapons were designed for long-range, space battles. Susan's squad carried shotguns loaded with explosive shells and rifles that fired depleted uranium rounds. The first alien to face them was a maintenance worker who stood 8 feet tall with arms like tree trunks. He roared and charged at Susan with his claws extended. She waited until he was 3 feet away, then fired her shotgun into his chest. The alien flew backward and crashed into a bulkhead. This way, Susan called to her team. Bridge should be, up 3 levels. They fought their way through the alien ship's corridors. The Xanthari were strong and fast, but they were confused by human tactics. Humans didn't fight fair. They used explosives in enclosed spaces. They took cover behind dead enemies. They coordinated their attacks with brutal efficiency. Back in space, the main battle was turning into a slaughter. The human dreadnoughts had caught the alien fleet completely off guard. Their weapons were unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. The UES Judgment under Captain Nancy Foster demonstrated the effectiveness of human missile technology. Nancy was 29 years old with red hair and a reputation for aggressive tactics. Her ship fired salvos of guided projectiles that could change direction in flight and penetrate enemy shields. Target the Kelvari cruisers, she ordered. They're trying to break formation. Her missiles streaked across space and slammed into 3 alien vessels. The explosions were visible from Earth's surface, bright flashes that lit up the night sky. Dr. Martin Cruz watched the battle from Earth's Strategic Command Center deep under the Rocky Mountains. He was 60 years old, with gray hair and thick glasses. As Earth's leading expert on alien technology, he had spent decades preparing for this moment. The enemy formation is collapsing, he reported to the president. Individual species are starting to abandon the alliance. The Kelvari are retreating toward the outer system. The Vorthan ships are moving to protect their own vessels instead of supporting the Xanthari. President Helen Burke nodded as she watched the tactical display. The aliens had made a crucial mistake. They had assumed that all species thought like they did. But humans had studied alien psychology for years. They knew that most galactic species were selfish and cowardly when faced with real danger. What about their flagship? She asked. Major Clark's boarding party has reached the bridge. They're in control of the alien command center. On the bridge of the Dominion's edge, Admiral Kexithera faced something he had never encountered before. A human soldier in powered armor was pointing a weapon at his head. You will order your fleet to surrender, Major Clark said through her helmet's speaker system. Kexithera looked around his bridge. Half of his crew was dead or wounded. The other half was staring at the humans with expressions of shock and fear. He had been a warrior for over 100 years. He had conquered dozens of worlds, but he had never fought an enemy like this. How? He asked. How did you develop such weapons? Our intelligence said you were primitive. Susan smiled inside her helmet. Your intelligence was wrong. We've been preparing for this war since before you knew we existed. Every crashed ship, every piece of alien technology that fell into our hands, we studied it. We improved it. We made it better. She gestured to one of her soldiers who began working at an alien control panel. Your surrender, Admiral. Now. Meanwhile, the space battle continued to rage around them. The human dreadnoughts were systematically destroying the alien fleet. Their tactics were perfect. They had studied every known alien species and developed specific strategies for fighting each one. The Zenthari liked to fight in close formation, supporting each other with overlapping shields. The humans had weapons that could penetrate multiple targets with a single shot. The Kelvari preferred to attack from long range with energy beams. The human ships had armor that could absorb energy weapons and convert the power to their own systems. Captain Ryan Walsh coordinated the battle from his flagship like a conductor leading an orchestra. Every ship knew its role. Every weapon strike was precisely timed. The aliens were fighting 12 separate battles against an enemy that was fighting one coordinated war. "Sir," Lieutenant Parker reported, "enemy casualties are at 60%. The remaining ships are scattered and trying to retreat." "Let some of them go," Ryan ordered. "We want survivors to carry word back to their masters. The galaxy needs to know what happened here." As the battle wound down, the true scope of humanity's victory became clear. Of the 300 alien ships that had entered the solar system, less than 50 were still capable of flight. The rest were either destroyed or drifting hulks filled with dead crews. The Galactic Trade Federation's greatest fleet had been defeated by a species they thought was primitive. Earth's dreadnoughts had proven that humanity was not the easy target the aliens had expected. Admiral Kexathera sat in his command chair, now a prisoner on his own ship. Around him, human soldiers secured alien technology and gathered intelligence that would change the balance of power in the galaxy. The war was far from over, but the first battle belonged to humanity. The surviving alien ships fled through space like frightened animals. What had started as a mighty invasion fleet was now a scattered group of damaged vessels running for their lives. Captain Ryan Walsh stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance and watched the retreating enemy ships on his tactical display. "Sir," Lieutenant Commander Lisa Parker reported, 47 alien vessels are attempting to escape the system. Should we let them go?" Ryan shook his head. "No. If even one of those ships makes it back to report what happened here, the entire galaxy will know about our capabilities. We can't let that happen. All ships pursue and destroy," he ordered over the fleet communications. No survivors reached the edge of the system. The 12 human dreadnoughts turned and began the hunt. Their engines, more advanced than anything the aliens possessed, quickly began closing the distance to the fleeing enemy vessels. Commander Alex Turner piloted his ship, the UES Judgment, through the asteroid belt in pursuit of 3 Kelvari destroyers. Alex was 28 years old with brown hair and steady hands. He had trained for this kind of chase for years in simulators, but this was his first real combat mission. The asteroids provided perfect cover for his tactics. The Kelvari ships were fast, but they were flying in straight lines, trying to get away as quickly as possible. Alex used the gravitational fields of the larger asteroids to mask his approach, appearing and disappearing like a ghost. "Target the lead ship," he told his weapons officer. "Single torpedo, low yield. I want to disable, not destroy." The torpedo streaked through space and struck the Kelvari destroyer's engine section. The alien ship spun out of control and crashed into a large asteroid. Alex moved his ship closer to inspect the wreckage. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're getting a distress signal from the crash site. The crew is still alive." "Send a boarding party," Alex ordered. "Full combat gear. We need prisoners." The second Kelvari ship tried to use the asteroid field to escape, weaving between the floating rocks at dangerous speeds. But Alex had been born in the asteroid belt, on a mining station that his parents had operated. He knew how to fly in this environment better than any alien. He followed the enemy ship deeper into the field, staying just out of weapon range. The Kelvari captain was good, but he made a mistake. He flew too close to a cluster of iron-rich asteroids that interfered with his ship's sensors. Alex was waiting for him on the other side. The Judgment appeared directly in front of the fleeing destroyer and fired a spread of kinetic rounds. The alien ship tried to turn away, but it was too late. The projectiles tore through its hull and destroyed its main reactor. 2 down, 1 to go, Alex said to his crew. The third Kelvari ship had taken a different route, trying to escape toward Jupiter, but it ran into Captain Nancy Foster and the UES Retribution. Nancy had positioned her ship near one of Jupiter's moons using the planet's massive gravity well to her advantage. The alien destroyer dropped out of faster-than-light travel right where Nancy expected it to. Her ship's weapons were already trained on the arrival point. The fight lasted less than 10 seconds. Meanwhile, near the edge of the solar system, a more important chase was taking place. Admiral Kexathera's flagship, the Dominion's Edge, was limping toward the heliopause with critical damage to its faster-than-light drive. The massive alien vessel was leaking atmosphere and trailing debris. Major Susan Clark had secured the bridge, but the rest of the ship was still controlled by hostile alien crew members. She and her soldiers were fighting a running battle through the ship's corridors trying to reach the engine room. "Collins, take your squad and secure the communications center," Susan ordered over her radio. "We can't let them send any messages." Sergeant Tim Collins was a tough soldier from Texas, 30 years old with a scar across his left cheek. He led his team through the alien ship's twisted passages, following maps they had downloaded from the bridge computers. The Zenthari crew members they encountered were desperate now. They fought with the fury of cornered animals, using their claws and teeth when their weapons ran out of ammunition. But human soldiers were trained for this kind of close combat. Their powered armor protected them from alien attacks, while their weapons could punch through the strongest alien materials. "Comm center secured," Collins reported 20 minutes later. "Found 3 aliens trying to send a distress signal. They won't be bothering anyone anymore." Susan's team reached the engine room to find a group of alien engineers trying to repair the faster-than-light drive. If they succeeded, the ship could escape and carry word of humanity's capabilities to the rest of the galaxy. "Surrender," Susan called out in the alien language she had learned during her training. "Drop your weapons and you will not be harmed." The lead engineer, a massive Zenthari with cybernetic implants covering half his body, roared in defiance. He grabbed a plasma cutter and charged at the human soldiers. Susan's shotgun boomed in the enclosed space. The alien engineer flew backward and crashed into a control panel in a shower of sparks. The other aliens looked at each other and slowly raised their hands. "Smart choice," Susan said. Back on Earth, Dr. Victoria Webb was conducting her first interrogation of captured alien officers. Victoria was 45 years old with gray streaks in her black hair. She was Earth's leading expert on alien psychology and had spent years studying intercepted communications from various galactic species. The prisoner sitting across from her was a Kelvari commander named Zekmor. His species looked like tall, thin humans with blue skin and large black eyes. They were known throughout the galaxy as excellent pilots and navigators. "Your fleet has been destroyed," Victoria told him in his own language. "Cooperation will be rewarded. Resistance will not." Zekmor stared at her with his large eyes. "How do you speak our language? How do you know so much about us?" Victoria smiled. "We have been studying your people for decades. Every ship that entered our system, every communication we intercepted, every piece of technology that fell into our hands. We learned from all of it." She leaned forward. "Your Galactic Trade Federation believes it rules this part of space. But you never bothered to truly understand the species you were trying to conquer. That was your mistake." "The Federation will send more ships," Zekmor said. "Thousands of them. You cannot fight the entire galaxy." "Perhaps, but first they have to know what happened here, and we intend to make sure that very few survivors make it home to tell the tale." As she spoke, the hunt continued throughout the solar system. Human ships tracked down fleeing aliens with ruthless efficiency. Some alien vessels tried to hide among the moons of the outer planets. Others attempted to use Jupiter's radiation to mask their energy signatures. A few even tried to surrender. None of it worked. The human dreadnoughts had been designed specifically for this kind of operation. Their sensors could track enemy ships across vast distances. Their weapons could strike targets hiding behind planets. Their speed allowed them to chase down any vessel that tried to run. Captain Kevin Stone, commanding the UES Retribution, cornered a group of Vorthan cruisers near Saturn's rings. The Vorthans were reptilian creatures known for their cunning and their advanced shield technology. But their shields were designed to stop energy weapons, not the kinetic penetrators that human ships carried. "This is Captain Stone of the Earth Defense Force," he broadcast to the alien ships. You are surrounded. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. The lead Vorthon captain responded with a burst of plasma fire that would have destroyed any normal human vessel, but the Retribution's armor absorbed the energy and converted it to power for her own weapons. Kevin's return fire turned two of the alien cruisers into expanding clouds of gas. The third ship tried to escape into Saturn's atmosphere, but human fighters were waiting for it. Small, fast craft piloted by Earth's best pilots swarmed the alien vessel and disabled its engines. Another one for the interrogation teams, Kevin reported to Fleet Command. As the hours passed, the number of escaping alien ships dropped steadily. 47 had fled the main battle, then 32, then 18, then 7. By the end of the day, only 3 alien vessels remained capable of faster-than-light travel. Captain Ryan Walsh made a difficult decision. He ordered 2 of them destroyed and allowed the third to escape. "Sir?" Lieutenant Parker asked. "Why let one get away?" Ryan looked at the tactical display showing the lone alien ship fleeing toward deep space. "Because the galaxy needs to know what happened here. They need to understand that Earth is not defenseless. But they also need to believe that we got lucky, that our victory was barely achieved. If they think we're weak, they'll send another fleet." "Exactly. And when they do, we'll be ready for them too." The lone surviving alien ship disappeared into faster-than-light travel, carrying news that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. The humans had not only defended their world but had hunted down their attackers with terrifying efficiency. The hunt was over, but the war was just beginning. The last alien ship fled into the darkness beyond Pluto, carrying news that would change the galaxy forever. Captain Ryan Walsh stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance and watched the enemy vessel disappear from his sensors. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations, processing the aftermath of humanity's first interstellar war. "Damage report," Ryan asked his first officer. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Parker checked her display. "Minor hull damage to 3 ships. No casualties among our forces. All dreadnoughts are operational and ready for further action." Ryan nodded. The battle had been even more one-sided than their planners had hoped. 50 years of secret preparation had paid off perfectly, but he knew this was only the beginning. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth Command. President Burke wants to address the fleet." The main screen changed to show President Helen Burke sitting in the Oval Office. Her silver hair was perfectly arranged, but Ryan could see the exhaustion in her gray eyes. She had been awake for 3 days straight, managing the crisis. Captain Walsh, Captain Stone, Captain Foster, and all the men and women of the Dreadnought fleet, she began. "You have done something remarkable today. You have protected our world and proven that humanity will not bow to alien tyranny." She paused and looked directly into the camera. "But our work is not finished. The galaxy now knows that Earth is not defenseless. They will send more ships, bigger fleets, deadlier weapons. We must be ready." Ryan listened to the president's words and felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. They had won the first battle, but the war was far from over. Meanwhile, in the captured alien flagship, Admiral Kexathara sat in his command chair under heavy guard. Major Susan Clark stood nearby, watching the alien commander with careful eyes. She had learned to respect the Xanthari's intelligence, even if she would never trust them. "Your species is remarkable," Kexathara said suddenly. "We studied you. For months. We thought we understood your capabilities. We were completely wrong." Susan walked closer to the alien admiral. "What did your intelligence report say about us?" "That you were primitive. That you had never fought a space war. That your technology was centuries behind ours." Kexathara's forearms moved in what Susan had learned was a gesture of confusion among his people. "How did we miss the truth?" "Because you saw what we wanted you to see," Susan replied. "Every probe you sent, every scan you made, we knew about it. We showed you our civilian ships and our old military equipment. We hid our real capabilities in places you never thought to look." She gestured toward the view screen, which showed the human dreadnoughts forming up for the journey back to Earth. Those ships were built in hollowed-out asteroids and hidden bases on the far side of moons. in facilities that don't appear on any public records. We've been preparing for this war since before your empire existed. Kexathara studied the human ships with new respect. The weapons you used against us, they are not of human design. Wrong again, Susan said with a slight smile. Every weapon, every piece of armor, every system on those ships was designed and built by human hands. Yes, we studied alien technology when we could get it, but we improved on everything we learned. We made it better. Back on Earth, Dr. Victoria Webb was analyzing the captured alien technology in a secure laboratory deep beneath the Nevada desert. The room was filled with strange devices and computer systems that hummed with alien energy. Victoria worked alongside a team of scientists who had spent decades preparing for this moment. The navigational data alone is worth the entire war, she told Dr. Martin Cruz as he joined her at a workstation. We now have detailed star maps showing the location of every major alien civilization within 1,000 light-years. Martin examined the holographic display floating above the alien computer. What about their military capabilities? The Galactic Trade Federation is much larger than we thought. They control over 200 star systems and have fleets numbering in the tens of thousands of ships. But, Victoria paused and highlighted several sections of the display. They're not unified. The Federation is really just an alliance of convenience between dozens of different species. Can we use that against them? Absolutely. Their species don't trust each other. Each one is looking out for its own interests first. If we can drive wedges between them, turn them against each other, we might be able to prevent them from mounting a coordinated response. As the scientists worked to understand alien technology, President Burke prepared to address the world. The time for secrecy was over. Humanity needed to know the truth about their place in the galaxy. The president walked into the United Nations General Assembly Hall in New York. Representatives from every nation on Earth were present, along with billions more watching on television and computer screens around the world. She had spent hours writing her speech, choosing each word carefully. People of Earth, she began. Today, our world faced its greatest threat. An alien fleet of over 300 ships entered our solar system with the intention of conquering our planet and enslaving our people. A murmur ran through the assembly. Most of the world's leaders had been briefed on the situation, but the general public was hearing this for the first time. These aliens destroyed our colonies on Mars, killing thousands of innocent people. They demanded our surrender and threatened to destroy our cities if we refused to submit. President Burke paused and looked around the room. But what these aliens did not know is that humanity has been preparing for this day for over 50 years. In secret facilities throughout our solar system, we have built a fleet of warships more advanced than anything the galaxy has seen. She gestured to the large screen behind her, which showed images of the Dreadnoughts in action. These ships, crewed by the bravest men and women of our species, met the alien fleet in battle and achieved complete victory. The enemy has been defeated, and their survivors have fled our system. The assembly erupted in cheers and applause, but President Burke raised her hand for silence. However, we must not celebrate too soon. The galaxy is vast and our enemies are numerous. The aliens who attacked us are part of a much larger empire that spans hundreds of worlds. They will return with more ships and deadlier weapons. She looked directly into the cameras. That is why I am announcing the activation of the Interstellar Defense Initiative. Our hidden shipyards will be expanded. Our fleets will be enlarged. Every nation on Earth will contribute to our common defense. In the weeks that followed, the world changed rapidly. Factories that had been producing consumer goods were converted to military production. Universities began teaching courses in alien languages and xenobiology. Young people volunteered by the millions to join the expanded Earth Defense Force. General Patricia Lopez, newly appointed as Supreme Commander of Earth's military forces, oversaw the massive mobilization effort. She had fought in 3 wars during her career, but nothing had prepared her for organizing humanity's defense against an entire galaxy. How long do we have? President Burke asked during a briefing at the Pentagon. Based on the intelligence we gathered from the captured ships, at least 6 months before they can organize another attack, maybe a year if we're lucky. Will that be enough time? General Lopez looked at the production reports on her desk. We're building 4 new Dreadnoughts every month. By the time they return, we'll have a fleet of over 60 capital ships plus hundreds of smaller vessels. And the other preparations? The Deep Space Monitoring Network is being expanded. We're establishing hidden bases in other star systems. Most importantly, we're making contact with some of the alien species that oppose the Federation. It turns out we're not the only ones who want to see their empire fall. 6 months later, Captain Ryan Walsh stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance as she led a fleet of 20 dreadnoughts toward the edge of the solar system. Their mission was to establish humanity's first interstellar base, a forward outpost that would serve as an early warning system for future alien attacks. But as he watched the stars grow larger on the view screen, Ryan knew they were doing more than just defending Earth. They were announcing humanity's arrival as a major power in galactic politics. The species that had once hidden in the shadows of their home system was now ready to take its place among the stars. The galaxy would never be the same.